So here we are. I'm making a Dead by Daylight video, and my first video in God, I don't know how long, but I will be back a little more regularly. I have been dropping, of course, shorts and doing live streams at least once or twice a week. But it's been a while since I dropped a full-length video, and I wanted to talk today about something that I can't help thinking about, and that's Stranger Things 2. That's right, Dead by Daylight's iconic chapter is going to be Stranger Things 2. And if you don't remember what the roadmap looked like, let's take a quick peek at it. Now, as we saw originally, this was supposed to come out in November, which would have coincided, of course, with the launch of Season 5 of Stranger Things, because that hit on Thanksgiving, and then the conclusions on Christmas and New Year's Day for the finale. And this was supposed to be an iconic chapter. You see, it comes with one killer, which we already know who that is. And I'll show you the video right after this in case you missed it. And we are going to talk about who we think the survivors will be. I've been covering Dead by Daylight so long that I remember when there was the announcement that Steve and Nancy were going to be new survivors, Demo Puppy was going to be the killer, and Hawkins Laboratory was coming. And then that launched on September 19th, 2019. And then that lasted for 2 years before the falling out between Behavior and Netflix occurred, when then, of course, the game removed all four of them on November 17th, 2021. And then 2 years later, lo and behold, I did this video, which was announcing the return of all four back on November 6th, 2023. And 2 years later, it's like every 2 years, there's Stranger Things news. Stranger Things Chapter 2 is going to be the big release, and this is what we know so far. Let me show you the quick and dirty little teaser trailer that reveals Vecna. So we know who the killer is going to be. It's going to be Vecna, even though we have Vecna from Dungeons and Dragons, who Vecna is named after. But that's a whole ball of wax we can get into later. But we will have multiple Vecnas. Now, what will they call him? I don't know. They might even call him Henry Creel. They could call him One. I don't know what they're going to refer to him as, because we haven't seen those types of PTB patch notes that really are going to delineate what we're going to call Vecna also. Vecna 2. Vecna Stranger Things? ST Vecna? I don't know. Anyway, I do think we should get this, which is the poster of Stranger Things Season 5 for Henry Creel with the Mr. What's-Its fit, which looks super clean with the pocket watch and the suit and tie. Like, Jamie Campbell-Bower looks amazing in this peak outfit with Henry Creel. I would love to see that as a legendary for Vecna. We're just going to call him Vecna for this video, all right? Sorry. And then we have two mystery survivors, and I'm going to go over who I think they are based on possibility. I truly expect to see very similar to what we saw when they did a second running of Resident Evil. We obviously got the killer. We're not getting a map, which we didn't. And we got two survivors with two legendaries that went over the old survivors. So we got a survivor skin for both Jill and Leon, which is what I expect for Nancy and Steve. Now, here's what I think. I think realistically, they're gonna probably focus more on the later seasons. Obviously, if Vecna is going to be the villain, he was only in season 4. And of course, we saw him at the very last episode. There's going to be spoilers. So at this point, if you haven't watched the first 4 episodes of season 5 of Stranger Things, I can't talk about it and season 4 and talk about what we can expect in this chapter. So here is your time to ditch out. Did I give you enough time? All right. So we saw him make his appearance at the very end. He has a much more Vecna-like look from Dungeons and Dragons with the waist, and looks more like a skeleton than he did in season 4, where he was a much fuller, just more seemed like a morphed human being. Now, I am interested to see where this goes with Vecna, but he's not really the focus. Like I said, I think we're probably going to get that Mr. What's-It, aka Henry Creel legendary for him, which is a fire fit if we do, which will be the more human look of Vecna from his, basically the mental projections he makes to his victims. So realistically, even though they will be aged up in season 5, I don't think they're going to probably go with either of the kids. They didn't really do that in the first time. They went with Nancy and they went with Steve, who were at least out of high school at that point. Even now, the main characters are all in high school. Like right now, you have Lucas, Mike, Will, Dustin, Erica. They're all still in high school. Max is still high school age, even though she's in her dream world and Vecna's memory. Like, I don't think any of them are going to be used. Holly's way too young. My boy, the GOAT, Derek the Delightful, is too young. So I think most likely, like, they're less than 15% chance. Now, I do think there is an outlier. I think Millie Bobby Brown's 11 bumps up to like a 30% chance just because of how much they've made her the face of Stranger Things. I think she has a higher chance than the other characters that I mentioned previously. I think we see about a 40% chance it's Eddie, but I think he is more likely going to be a legendary skin for Steve, and a 50% chance, I say, of Robin. But I think, like Eddie, is going to be more likely a legendary skin for Nancy. Now, I love Brett Gelman's performance as Murray, and he's one of my favorite characters who's really grown on me in the series, but I don't think there's any chance he gets... I think he's less than the kids. I think he's at like 5% as a survivor. So that brings us to who we think really is going to be the survivor. And I think it's two people. The two people that were rumored to be coming to the game when it was removed back in 2021. And that's Joyce and Hopper. Joyce Byers, Winona Ryder, is technically the star of the show. She's always been top billing. It was driven in season 1 as the new Winona Ryder show. And I think Joyce is definitely going to be the female survivor. And Hopper, the father of 11, who's had a lot of different looks throughout the seasons, is probably going to be the male survivor. I think both of those I have at 80% or higher. They could throw a surprise, but I think they're the most likely. They're both adult characters. They don't have to worry about them being teenagers and you know, killing kids, which they don't really like to do. It's not going to be someone like Papa or Victor Creel, even though if they could finally get, you know, Robert Englund in, I would absolutely adore it. But I think that makes the most sense. Now, the question I have for Hopper is, what look are they going to go for him? Because here's the question. We just brought in Rick Grimes with the sheriff look, which is a constant, like, perfect look for Hopper. But do they run back-to-back sheriff skins on the labs? I don't know. I think we're going to find out a lot more. Obviously, based on the roadmap, we are not getting the Stranger Things PTP in 2025, which means we should probably expect it in very early January. And I don't know if we're even going to find out who the survivors are this month. So as we go through Christmas and New Year's, which is the conclusion of season 5 of Stranger Things, we find out who makes it, who doesn't. We are going to probably know then who the survivors are. Now, this is the first thing in DBD in a while that has got me very excited. I'm looking forward to seeing what the winter event has later today. I've always thought the Bone Chill event was their best event of the year, other than the anniversary, just because of cakes. But they always seem to go all out to close out the year. And I know they don't want to take away from it with Stranger Things being the focus, but they've already kind of tipped their hat with Vecna, so I really wish we get some more information. But for now, I think that's what I expect. Let me know in the comments who you think is going to be the survivors or the skins, or what skin you would really like for some survivors, or who you think should be the two survivors. Do you think it should be, you know, Barb from season 1, the ghost of Barb? No one. Tell me who you think. Do you think it should be 11 and her waffles and her magic powers? Should it be Will or Mike or Lucas or Max? Max is pretty awesome. I see like merits for all of them, but I still am going to double down on Joyce and Hopper being the ones. I want to know what you though think in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching, and later, mates.